The moment you clicked on this message, something shifted. Not yesterday. Not last week. Right now. And before you dismiss that as just another dramatic statement, listen carefully, because what you are about to hear may explain why certain doors have suddenly started moving around you, why certain people have been acting differently, and why you felt drawn to this exact message at this exact time. This is not about luck. This is not about coincidence. And it is definitely not about chance. Because a miracle does not always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives disguised as a delay. Sometimes it arrives disguised as a closed door. And sometimes it arrives disguised as the very thing that almost made you give up. Congratulations. Your miracle has arrived. But there is something you must understand immediately. Most people miss their miracle. Not because it never comes, but because they stop looking one moment too soon. And if you stay with me until the end, you will discover why what is happening around you right now is bigger than you ever imagined. Because there is a hidden piece of this story. A piece that changes everything. And once you hear it, you will never look at your recent struggles the same way again. For a long time, you have been carrying questions. Questions nobody could answer. Questions you whispered in silence. Questions that followed you into sleepless nights. Why did that opportunity disappear? Why did that relationship fall apart? Why did that door close when it seemed perfect? Why has everything felt delayed? Why have you felt like you were standing still while everyone else moved ahead? You asked. You waited. You hoped. You prayed. And then there were moments when you almost stopped believing. Moments when disappointment became familiar. Moments when silence felt louder than any answer. But what if the delay was never punishment? What if the waiting period was actually preparation? What if the reason things did not happen when you wanted them to happen is because something greater was being arranged behind the scenes? Think about that. Because right now, there are things happening that you cannot see. Conversations you never heard. Obstacles being removed before they ever reach you. Opportunities moving closer. People being repositioned. Circumstances changing. And while you thought nothing was happening, everything was happening. The greatest mistake people make is assuming that invisible means inactive. But the most powerful transformations are always invisible first. A seed grows underground before anyone sees a tree. A sunrise begins before the first ray appears. And a miracle begins long before it becomes visible. That means your story has already changed. You just haven't seen the full evidence yet. And this is where things become extraordinary. Because there is someone listening right now who has almost reached their breaking point. You smiled in front of people. You acted strong. You told everyone you were okay. But deep down, you felt exhausted. Not physically. Spiritually. Emotionally. Mentally. You kept carrying burdens nobody understood. You kept fighting battles nobody could see. And there were nights when you wondered if things would ever get better. If that is you, hear this clearly. You did not come this far just to stop here. You did not survive everything you survived just to lose now. You did not endure every setback, every disappointment, every heartbreak, every betrayal, every delay, only to watch your story end in defeat. No. Something bigger is unfolding. And evidence of it is already appearing. Maybe it is a strange feeling you cannot explain. Maybe it is a sudden sense that something is changing. Maybe it is an unexpected opportunity. Maybe it is a conversation. Maybe it is a new idea. Maybe it is a door beginning to open. Small signs. Subtle signs. But signs nonetheless. Because miracles rarely announce themselves loudly. They arrive quietly. Then suddenly. And that is exactly why so many people miss them. Imagine someone standing outside during sunrise. The sky is still dark. Nothing appears different. Everything looks the same. Then gradually the horizon changes. Just a little. Not enough for everyone to notice. But enough to prove the sun is coming. That is where you are right now. You are standing in the moments before breakthrough. The moments before clarity. The moments before answers. The moments before change. And this next part is important. Because there is something your struggles have been teaching you. Something priceless. Something that will make sense only when you look back. Every disappointment strengthened something inside you. Every setback developed something inside you. Every delay prepared something inside you. You thought you were being denied. But in many cases, you were being developed. You thought life was taking from you. But often it was building you. Quietly. Patiently. Powerfully. And now the results are beginning to appear. Think about who you were a year ago. Think about how much you have survived. Think about how many times you got back up. Think about how many times you kept moving forward even when nobody knew how difficult it was. That strength did not appear overnight. It was built. And now it is about to serve a purpose. Because the next chapter requires a stronger version of you. Not the old version. The new version. The wiser version. The resilient version. The version that learned through experience. And that is why you should not underestimate this moment. Because this is not merely another video. This is a reminder. A reminder that your story is not over. A reminder that your waiting has not been wasted. A reminder that what looked like an ending may actually be a beginning. But there is still one more secret. One more revelation. One more truth many people never discover. Sometimes the miracle is not the thing you receive. Sometimes the miracle is the person you become while waiting for it. Read that again in your heart. Because there are people who receive everything they ever wanted and still remain empty. And there are people who grow through hardship and become unstoppable. Your journey has been shaping you. Strengthening you. Preparing you. And now the reward is closer than it appears. In fact, there is a reason this message found you today. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Today. Because you needed a reminder. A reminder not to quit. A reminder not to lose hope. A reminder not to walk away from the very moment things are about to change. The breakthrough often arrives right after the moment people decide to give up. The answer often arrives right after the longest silence. The opportunity often arrives right after the greatest frustration. And the miracle often arrives right after the hardest season. So if you have been feeling tired, hold on. If you have been feeling discouraged, hold on. If you have been wondering whether anything is changing, hold on. Because there are things moving in your favor that you cannot yet see. And when everything finally comes together, you will realize something astonishing. You were never abandoned. You were never forgotten. You were never overlooked. You were being guided, protected, prepared, positioned for this exact moment. Congratulations! Your miracle has arrived. Not because everything is suddenly perfect. Not because every problem has disappeared. But because the process that once looked impossible is finally producing results. And when you look back one day, you will see that this moment marked the beginning of a completely different chapter. A chapter of restoration. A chapter of unexpected opportunities. A chapter of answered prayers. A chapter of breakthroughs. A chapter of growth. A chapter of purpose. A chapter you once thought would never come. Yet here it is. Closer than ever. And this is only the beginning. But before this new chapter fully unfolds, there is something you need to understand. Because miracles do not just arrive. They reveal themselves. And the way they reveal themselves often shocks the people who have been waiting the longest. Right now, there are two versions of your future standing before you. One version is built from fear. The other is built from faith. One version keeps looking backward. The other keeps moving forward. One version remains trapped inside old disappointments. The other steps boldly into new possibilities. And the decision between those two futures is happening sooner than you think. That is why this message is so important. Because many people pray for change while secretly expecting disappointment. They hope for a breakthrough while preparing for failure. They ask for new opportunities while keeping their eyes fixed on old wounds. And without realizing it, they block themselves from recognizing the very miracle they asked for. Do not let that happen to you. Because something remarkable is already beginning to take shape. Look back over the last few months. Notice the things that quietly left your life. Notice the people who drifted away. Notice the situations that ended unexpectedly. Notice the plans that fell apart. At the time, it felt painful. At the time, it felt confusing. At the time, it felt unfair. But what if those departures were not losses? What if they were preparations? Because sometimes things leave your life to create space for what is coming next. You cannot fill a full cup. You cannot enter a new season while clinging to the old one. And you cannot receive what is meant for you while holding on to what was never meant to stay. That is why some doors had to close. Not because your future was shrinking. Because your future was expanding. And expansion always requires space. Now here is where the story becomes even more powerful. There is a hidden battle that happens before every major breakthrough. A battle most people never talk about. It is the battle between what you see and what you believe. Because before circumstances change, your perspective must change. Before opportunities appear, your expectations must change. Before your environment transforms, something inside you must transform. Think about every great turning point in life. It usually starts with a decision. A decision to keep going. A decision to believe again. A decision to try one more time. A decision not to quit. And that single decision becomes the bridge between struggle and success. Maybe you have been waiting for a sign. Maybe you have been waiting for confirmation. Maybe you have been waiting for proof. But what if this is the confirmation? What if this moment is the reminder you needed? Because there is a reason your attention is still here. There is a reason you have not clicked away. There is a reason something inside you keeps saying, keep listening. That feeling matters. Because intuition often notices what logic cannot yet explain. Your spirit often senses movement before your eyes can see it. And right now, movement is happening. Slowly. Quietly. Powerfully. The problem is that people expect miracles to arrive in dramatic ways. They expect lightning. They expect instant transformation. They expect overnight success. But many miracles begin with something small. A phone call. A conversation. An idea. An invitation. A chance meeting. A sudden realization. Something that seems ordinary at first. Yet later becomes the moment that changed everything. That is why you must stay alert. Because the next opportunity may not look impressive when it first appears. It may seem small. It may seem insignificant. It may even seem unrelated to what you have been praying for. But hidden inside that opportunity could be the answer you have been waiting for. And this leads to a truth that very few people understand. The miracle is not always what arrives. Sometimes the miracle is what finally makes sense. Think about that. How many things in your past seemed confusing until later? How many disappointments eventually revealed a purpose? How many closed doors protected you from something you could not see? How many delays saved you from making the wrong move? Life has a way of revealing answers after enough time passes. And one day, many of the things that currently confuse you will become crystal clear. You will understand why certain people left. You will understand why certain plans failed. You will understand why certain opportunities disappeared. And when that day comes, you will realize that what looked like chaos was actually direction. What looked like rejection was actually protection. What looked like delay was actually preparation. And what looked like loss was actually redirection. That realization alone has the power to change everything. Because it frees you from regret. It frees you from resentment. It frees you from the endless cycle of asking, why did that happen? Instead, you begin asking a better question. What is this preparing me for? That question changes everything. Because it shifts your focus from the past to the future. And your future contains possibilities greater than you currently realize. In fact, there is someone listening right now who has underestimated their own potential. You have spent so much time focusing on what went wrong that you forgot how much strength you actually possess. You forgot how resilient you are. You forgot how much you have overcome. You forgot how many storms you survived. Yet here you are. Still standing. Still moving forward. Still searching for answers. still refusing to give up completely. That is not weakness. That is evidence of remarkable strength. And strength like that does not go unnoticed. Every challenge you survived added another layer to your character. Every obstacle developed another skill. Every setback taught another lesson. Nothing was wasted. Nothing. Even the painful parts. Even the confusing parts. Even the moments you wish you could erase. They all contributed to the person you are becoming. And the person you are becoming is capable of things the old version of you could never imagine. Now imagine looking back 1 year from today. Imagine seeing how far you have come. Imagine seeing the opportunities that appeared. Imagine seeing the relationships that improved. Imagine seeing the breakthroughs that arrived. Imagine seeing the goals that became reality. Imagine realizing that the season you feared most was actually the season that transformed everything. That future is closer than it seems. Not because life suddenly becomes perfect, but because you begin recognizing possibilities where you once saw obstacles. You begin recognizing opportunities where you once saw delays. You begin recognizing blessings where you once saw disappointments. And that shift changes everything. Because once you start recognizing the miracle, you stop searching for proof that life is against you. Instead, you begin noticing evidence that life is moving in your favor. And evidence is everywhere. You are still here. You are still breathing. You are still capable of dreaming. You are still capable of growing. You are still capable of beginning again. Those facts alone are powerful. Yet the greatest revelation is still ahead. Because in the next chapter of this story, you will discover why the timing of your miracle may be even more important than the miracle itself. And once you understand that truth, every delay you experienced will begin to make sense in a way that changes your entire perspective forever. The story is not finished. Not even close. In many ways, it is only now beginning. Now let's talk about the part nobody sees. The hidden timing behind every miracle. Because if there is one thing that frustrates people more than anything else, it is waiting. Waiting for answers. Waiting for opportunities. Waiting for change. Waiting for life to finally make sense. And during that waiting season, it is easy to believe nothing is happening. But what if timing is not the obstacle? What if timing is actually the gift? Think about that carefully. Because many of the things you once wanted would have destroyed you if they had arrived too early. Many opportunities would have overwhelmed you. Many relationships would have failed. Many responsibilities would have crushed you. Not because they were bad, but because you were not yet ready. And readiness changes everything. Imagine receiving the keys to a powerful machine before learning how to control it. Imagine receiving great responsibility before developing wisdom. Imagine receiving success before building character. The blessing would become a burden. The gift would become a problem. That is why timing matters. Not just what arrives. When it arrives. And as you listen right now, something extraordinary may be happening. You may finally be reaching the season you have been prepared for all along. Not because you suddenly became lucky. Because you became ready. Ready through struggle. Ready through patience. Ready through lessons. ready through growth. The person listening to this message today is not the same person who started the journey. You have changed, whether you realize it or not. Your perspective has changed. Your understanding has changed. Your resilience has changed. And because you have changed, new possibilities are becoming available. This is the part where many people make a mistake. They assume the miracle means the end of all challenges. It doesn't. The miracle means you are now equipped to face life differently. With more wisdom, more strength, more confidence, more clarity. That is the true transformation. Because circumstances alone do not create fulfillment. Growth does. And you have grown more than you realize. There were moments when you thought you were falling apart. But in reality, you were being rebuilt. There were moments when you thought you were losing. But in reality, you were learning. There were moments when you thought everything was ending. But in reality, something new was beginning. The problem is that beginnings rarely look like beginnings. They often look like uncertainty. They often look like change. They often look like discomfort. And because of that, people sometimes resist the very thing they prayed for. Do not resist what is coming. Welcome it. Even if it arrives differently than expected. Because miracles rarely follow our plans. They follow a greater design. And that design is often far better than anything we could have imagined ourselves. Now there is something else you need to hear. Something that could completely change the way you see your future. Your greatest days may still be ahead of you. Not behind you. Ahead of you. The best conversation. The best opportunity. The best breakthrough. The best chapter. The best version of yourself. Ahead of you. Many people spend years looking backward. They replay mistakes. They revisit disappointments. They relive failures. And without realizing it, they become trapped by their history. But your history is not your destiny. Your past may explain you. It does not define you. The chapters you have already lived are important. But they are not the final chapter. And if you could see everything waiting on the horizon, you would understand why the journey had to unfold exactly as it did. Because every twist had a purpose. Every setback carried a lesson. Every delay created preparation. Every challenge built strength. Nothing was random. Nothing was meaningless. Even the moments that felt unbearable contributed to where you are now. And where you are now is standing at the edge of something new. That is why this message found you. Not to remind you of what you lost, but to remind you of what remains possible. Possibility is powerful. Possibility creates momentum. Possibility creates hope. Possibility creates action. And action creates change. The miracle you have been waiting for may not begin with a giant event. It may begin with a decision. A decision to believe again. A decision to try again. A decision to trust again. A decision to move forward again. Small decisions create massive transformations. One step leads to another. One opportunity leads to another. One breakthrough leads to another. And before long, your entire life begins moving in a new direction. This is why you cannot afford to quit now. Not after everything you have survived. Not after everything you have learned. Not after everything you have overcome. You are too close to stop. Too prepared to stop. Too capable to stop. And perhaps that is the biggest revelation of all. The miracle is not simply arriving around you. The miracle is also happening within you. You are stronger than before. Wiser than before. More resilient than before. More prepared than before. More capable than before. That growth is priceless. Because no one can take it from you. Circumstances may change. People may come and go. Opportunities may appear and disappear. But the strength you built remains. And that strength will carry you into the future. Now imagine this moment from a different perspective. Imagine that 1 year from now, everything finally makes sense. Imagine looking back and realizing that this was the turning point. The moment you stopped doubting yourself. The moment you stopped focusing on limitations. The moment you stopped expecting disappointment. The moment you finally embraced possibility. Imagine how different life would feel. Imagine the peace. Imagine the confidence. Imagine the gratitude. That future version of you already exists in possibility. The only question is whether you will keep moving toward it. Because the path is open. The opportunity is there. The next chapter is waiting. And the most incredible part is this. You do not need to have every answer right now. You do not need to understand every detail. You do not need to see the entire road ahead. You only need enough courage for the next step. That is how every great journey unfolds. One step. Then another. Then another. Until one day you look back and realize you traveled farther than you ever thought possible. So if you hear nothing else from this message, hear this. Do not underestimate what is happening in your life. Do not underestimate your growth. Do not underestimate your potential. Do not underestimate your future. And most importantly, do not underestimate the miracle that may already be unfolding around you. Because the story is changing. The season is changing. The possibilities are expanding. The answers are approaching. The doors are opening. And the chapter ahead may become the chapter you remember for the rest of your life. Congratulations! Your miracle has arrived. Not because everything happened instantly. Not because every challenge disappeared overnight. But because the transformation has already begun. And once transformation begins, nothing remains the same. The next chapter is waiting. And it may be more extraordinary than anything you have imagined so far. This is not the end of the story. This is the beginning of the breakthrough.